Hello everyone, welcome to the Ahdurin region. I am your host Ahdurin himself, and welcome to another Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Challenge. We're back on Blue Rescue Team this time, doing what I initially thought was going to be a very easy challenge. Can you beat Pokemon Blue Rescue Team with 2 Chikoritas? Before we begin, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all those things you ought to do in supporting a YouTube channel because it's incredibly helpful, and stick around not only for the challenge to actually see the results, but also because there's a couple of announcements that I wanted to make. So without further ado, let's begin. Shout out, of course, to the person that actually generated this challenge on the screen right now, Lupin69. Thank you so much for this idea. It was nice, it was calm until it wasn't, and I appreciate that. So, let's talk Chikorita. Chikorita, famous for being a starter that not everybody loves, probably due to the fact that Chikorita struggles intensely in the first couple of gyms in Johto, and I think that sentiment is just kind of carried over to various other generations. In this game, Chikorita, pretty good to start off with. In fact, Tiny Woods, Thunderwave Cave, Mount Steel, pretty easy. So here's just a highlight of me going through that and also training. I took the opportunity to sit in the side and collect experience points, which you'll see on this floor here. I do this at the end of every floor in the first couple of times, especially when with the dungeons being relatively easy and us just trying to do missions. So you'll see here, found the stairs, just sit in the corner and then skip my turn, let my partner collect the experience from their exclusive move user to add additional experience, and you'll see this a couple of times throughout the early parts of this run. Chikorita, its biggest issue, I think, like so many Pokemon in the early parts of this game, Chikorita is no exception, the moveset. You can see this on the screen right now. Not a fantastic moveset. Razor Leaf, though, very clutch. And it's a great grass type move. It's a distance move. While its accuracy isn't perfect, it's certainly one that you can work with, and it allows for that, extra dimension of being able to attack from a distance. Here's my house. It's been so long since I played as a grass type starter. Fun fact, Blue Rescue Team, first time I played through, I was a Bulbasaur, so this is the first house that I saw, or something similar to this, but I haven't played as a grass type starter, I think, in forever, so it's fun. Partner's name, by the way, is Faye, because I thought that was a cool little grass name here. I struggle intensely to make a name. I eventually go with Team Leaf, because I'm not creative. So, while we do this, Thunderwave Cave, Mount Steel, you know the deal. I want to get straight into these announcements. So, these Pokemon challenges are great, they're fantastic, they're fun, but I find myself somewhat bored, not with Pokemon challenges, but with me doing them by myself. So, you guys get to join with me. Over the next couple of weeks, if you're watching this right now, basically July of 2023, I am going to be live streaming these Pokemon challenge run-throughs. I'm going to do one on twitch.tv/the region and one on this very YouTube channel. On Twitch, I'll be going through Explorers of Sky, but my starter-partner combination changes every half an hour through a combination of either a wheel or through contributions by all of you, subscriptions, donations, that sort of thing. Through that, you can basically force a new starter combination. Whether a good one or not, I'll leave up to you. So that's happening on Twitch. On YouTube at the same time, basically, on YouTube, I'll be streaming Blue Rescue Team, but doing the Professor Oak Challenge, which is effectively going through the game, but having to recruit everybody before you move on to the next plot dungeon. Is this going to be a long one? Both of them are. Yes, because the difficulty on that one can spike dramatically, and this one can quickly get a lot of content. I'm going to guarantee main story, and depending on how quickly we finish, I might get into post-game. So, be sure, first of all, if you haven't already, be sure to follow me on twitch.tv/the Ahdurin region, and subscribe to this channel, of course, because that's the best thing. Live streams happen there and here. The Twitch ones will happen from 4 to 6 starting next Monday. And then the YouTube ones will start a little bit later. I need a little bit of a break. So 6:30 to 8:30. All of this is Eastern time. So basically roughly 4-ish hours. We'll do 2 hours each day. I'll try to get through these in a couple of weeks, and then we'll consolidate all of these into special challenge videos where it's, Pokemon, but chat controls XYZ, or chat can make things easier and more complicated. And again, your contributions, donations, all that sort of stuff can make the challenges harder and easier, both there and here. Also, I don't know if it's fully active as of this point, but by the time the streams start, memberships will be active on YouTube, subscriptions are already available on Twitch, so if you want to support, that'd be great. I don't want to make this too big of an ad, but it's a fun little thing nevertheless. So, that's basically the case here. This is a fun little section where I just got a bunch of items. You'll notice I'm using a bunch of gummies as we transition back into the game. My partner's getting a lot more gummies than normal. This ended up being beneficial to me, though I didn't realize it at the time. This is normally my general pattern, just to get my partner smarter, effectively, but it's certainly interesting. So to fully full stop that, be sure to follow there, subscribe here, like the video, do all that fun stuff. This starts this coming Monday, which is the 17th. I think that's how the math works. Anyway, let's get into the boss battle here. The first one with Skarmory. This is not that complicated. We've got Reviver Seeds. It's so fun using Kecleon again. In the last challenge, which is on the screen right now somewhere, talking about the Zero Poke Challenge, I missed my Kecleon brothers, but we get to hang out with them, mainly just me buying Reviver Seeds and various other things like that. This Skarmory is not that difficult of a boss, even though we have the type disadvantage just because of small health, and we're able to quickly zoom through this. Daily/periodic mention that Diglett has feet, because of course they do, and from there, we transition back, officially going away from the ad read into the Chikorita challenge. So at this point in the run, it's been easy. Chikorita, partner, and I have been zooming through things. Razor Leaf is fantastic, and it allows me so much flexibility as well. So a bunch of, various opportunities to just collect experience points as well, which has been beneficial. In the previous run-throughs that I've done in the past, I have not taken advantage of the fact that we just body the early dungeons. So just sit in the corner, let my partner collect experience points through moves, me just kind of sitting there and waiting for time to pass by. Definitely beneficial. Just go until basically your belly's up and then just walk into the stairs. Team Meanies is here. They commit a petty crime. I don't know if it's officially a petty crime or if it's a federal level crime, but they commit a crime nevertheless by stealing mail, which is not fun. We have a slight disadvantage against 2 of their members, which is also not fun, but Pelipper saves the day here. So, from here, we transition over into the next location, as you know. Going through this, Caterpie, Metapod, Team Meanies. From here, let's move over. Again, I'm showing this as well because it's just keeping you in track with where our levels are. And plus, we're able to continuously level up like this. It's so fun as well to be working with partners and Pokemon. While the type disadvantage thing isn't on our side with the grass type and our diversity of moves not being as great as I mentioned earlier, I'm just trying to find the right spot to go from here because I want to make sure I don't have to actually battle them. So I want to make sure my partner deals with it and everything, just so that I can hold the A and B button and just kind of let time pass as opposed to me having to do actual actions. But overall, double Chikorita, not a big issue at all. The Razor Leaf is able to do distance things, Tackle is still doing a sizable amount of damage, and we're able to proceed forward from here. So sure enough, Caterpie comes to us. We need help to grab Metapod out of the Sinister Woods. Gengar provides health benefits to potentially sway Caterpie. I guess, I don't know what their dental is like, but Caterpie, our dental is much better. And we go try to save Metapod. Sinister Woods. This is the dungeon that sometimes can bring challenges with the boss battle, the first boss battle of potential difficulties. Though we'll see how successful we are with that. Also, Sudowoodo is a great opportunity to collect experience as well with the super effectiveness. It's been really helpful to have, decent experience from a super effective Pokemon. And we jump straight over to the 13th floor of Sinister Woods, fighting against Team Meanies. Now, the general strategy I've used in the past is to just kind of push Gengar away and deal with the other folks. Use Growl here, which is a little bit beneficial. My partner uses Growl, which is not something they always do. And from here, you got Reviver Seeds as well. I'm going to Blast Seed Gengar, which is able to do sizable damage. Just kind of deal with the rest here. I switch on Reflect. I got Reflect. I used it throughout this challenge. I don't know if it was as useful later on, since I think later on Pokemon start to use more special moves. But in the early parts where all of these Pokemon are physical, and this is also before the physical special split, it's definitely beneficial dealing with poison types and fighting types, even ghost types. It's basically, I think the way that I try to remember is that it's all of the EV evolutions and Dragon, I think, are the special ones, and everything else is physical. It's something along those lines. We're able to deal with Team Meanies quickly and jump over to Silent Chasm. Faye has a stomachache, I don't, and Faye's angry at me, and from there we jump straight into Silent Chasm. I've mentioned this all the time. Silent Chasm has a really great soundtrack. The music in this is really fun for some reason. I don't know why I enjoy it so much, but I do. And we continue to feed berries and continue forward from here. If you've wondered in the past why my level is so low, I apply, I guess, speedrunner strats. Not really, but I follow a speedrunner's guide to the Blue Rescue Team, trying to do things as quickly and efficiently as possible. And if it becomes a problem, I cross my fingers that I can level up after the fact. So far, it has not steered me wrong. Will that happen in this challenge? I guess you'll have to wait and see. Anyway, we get enveloped by the darkness and pop up in Mount Thunder. And from here, we got to go into a dungeon that is not beneficial to us. We start to deal with more types that are bad against, us. Bad to deal with. Able to zoom through that without any issue, though. We jumped to Zapdos, the fight against Zapdos here, where my partner decides to run forward and fight a legendary beast. Again, I switch on Reflect. Not sure why I did. I mean, Wing Attack is definitely useful. I use Growl here to lower it a little bit. The Peck does save their life, at least a little bit. And from here, I envelop a strategy of heal with Oran Berries if I can, and wait to hopefully let my partner deal with everything. So you'll see constantly partner attacks, they attack, big damage, Oran Berry. Partner attacks, they attack, big damage, Oran Berry. Repeat that over and over again, with my partner basically doing all of the effort, which is a great strategy until you run out of Oran Berries, as I'm about to do sooner or later. So there's one left in the box. There's a Thundershock, 0 left in the box. Now if I want to use Reviver Seeds, which I don't want to use at this point in the story, because I'm trying to save those for the end boss. From here, it's a little bit of mechanical stuff as I try to force my opponent to come at me, move Faye out of the way a little bit, bounce down there. From here, it's now just, I use Reflect here as well, which is just helpful. Thundershock, again, bypassing the Reflect, so I'm not sure how beneficial it was, but it was nevertheless. Blast Seeds, the Reflect here, we're both set up now. We just go for the Stab, Razor Leaf, Blast Seed combination, and we are successful. Team Act over here shows up late, but, Zapdos is cool with it and runs away. Shiftry saved as well. Now, of course, there's the whole little plot significance here. Adam, haven't done that in so long. Alakazam able to recognize who we are. Adam is the name of an Alakazam in my Pokemon Mystery Dungeon DTRPG actual play podcast, which you can check out in the description or somewhere on the etherweb. It's called Not a Scratch. You can check that out. This is apparently a big ad of a challenge, but also double Chikorita. It's fun. Chikorita would enjoy the podcast. That's my plan. Here's a couple of Dunsparce as we head into the next dungeon, the Grand Canyon. Another fantastic music dungeon, and we jump straight through Xatu. Again, a lot of this early part of the dungeon are either Pokemon, because we are working with 2 official starter types. It's not like we're working with a Magikarp right now. So we've got 2 Pokemon that are able to deal with the story, and while we are the same type, it's beneficial in the early part. We're able to overwhelm Pokemon that are lower level than us, like in Tiny Woods and Thunderwave Cave, and then down Steel, Silent Chasm, Great Canyon. They've got a bunch of ground types and Pokemon rock types, people that we're able to deal with. This is the Wishcash story. Wishcash tells the story of the Ninetales and the Gardevoir and the human that disrupted things. It sounds a lot like me, except for the whole being bad thing, which I thought I haven't done. Faye distrusts us for a brief moment before they complain, "No, you're a friend like no other," which I appreciate, Faye. Though, however, while you seem to be on my side here, it doesn't seem like everybody else is, because Gengar is like, "Hey, here's a story of folks that are bad. And do you know who that one bad guy is? That Ahdurin kid over there. So let's go fight him." And they decide to fight. We run away, only for Team ACT to eventually show up right about here as soon as I exclaim that I have no idea what's going on. Team ACT shows up and it's like, "Hey, so we're going to have to destroy you now, unless you run away tomorrow morning, because we'll pretend that you went to hiding, and we'll look into a river or something to pretend like we're searching for you. So go run away." At this point, it's a fun little emotional scene. I'm not sure why I kept all this in. I guess it's because I haven't kept this specific scene in for a while. But all of our friends that we made, Diglett and Caterpie and Metapod and Pelipper and Jumpluff and the other Jumpluff, show up and show out. I've also found this just very fun. The double Chikorita thing, like the same animations and everything like that, is kind of funny, because usually it's 2 different Pokemon with 2 different exclaims and stuff. Let's jump into Lapis Cave. Lapis Cave. This, as I've mentioned in the past, is usually the final dungeon of quote-unquote of easiness. I've typically found in playthroughs that once you get past this and move on to Mount Blaze is that's when the difficulty starts to ramp up. Though, of course, as double Chikorita and with the Zubats here using Leech Life that are super effective, this dungeon also can be potentially complicated. Get through that dungeon without any issues, though, and now we reach the tough part. This is Mount Blaze. Bam. Difficulty. We have to get ready for this. This is where things can start to get challenging, because everybody in this dungeon is able to beat us at a moment's notice, which is not very fun. Let's walk on in to Mount Blaze. So Mount Blaze as a dungeon kind of has all the Pokemon that we don't like here, as I continue to feed gummies to Fae here because it's incredibly helpful, both for IQ skills and for something that we'll pick up sooner or later. But Mount Blaze has fire types, which as a double grass type team is not ideal. On top of that, they are just all over the place. They're able to surprise us. They can target us and pin us down. Nummel and Macargo's line and Slugman, everything like that. Ultimately, we're able to succeed. Even Fearow here, you can see on the right-hand side, the first attempt, which did not go as well as the second attempt, as we get bombarded by double Fearow and an Arcanine. Very quickly, Fury Attack also knocks us out, so it's not ideal. But we're able to get through this dungeon without any issue. I'm healing up here as I prepare for the boss fight. The first one that will provide real problems, and that is Moltres. Now, Moltres provides a quad ineffectiveness to our Razor Leaves, which, seeing as Razor Leaf has been the main way that we've done any damage, it's going to make this incredibly tough. A Fire Flying type is not ideal for the grass types, but without further ado, let us begin. So we get into the fight. I'm setting things up. Again, usual strategy. While they're coming at us, we go for Growl or something along those lines. Partner kind of uses it on a whim. We've set this up as well so that we both have power bands. Well, I don't know if that's really helpful at this point, and eventually I'll switch that over to special bands. But for now, I'm going to go for Tackle because that can do the damage that we can. Ember did 95 damage. I'm not sure if you saw that, but that is more than we will ever get in this entire playthrough. In other words, this is going to be slightly more complicated than you think. I actually go for Razor Leaf at this point because I'm thinking maybe the special damage is slightly better. My partner is able to do the damage that at least a Gravel Rock would. We're eventually able to get to that point, but every Fire-type move they use can knock us out. Burning through Reviver Seeds at this point. We're just trying to make anything happen, and eventually we run out. So second attempt here. Trying something different now. The Reflect, I put it up. Partner doesn't because the opponent's not right next to them, which seems to be the reason why. But here, go for Blast Seeds, start throwing rocks and preparing for things like that. Because the throwing of the rocks is actually guaranteed set 20, while the Razor Leaves kind of do a range, and I don't seem to be hitting that range right now. From here, it's kind of just luck. We cross our fingers that Moltres goes for regular A attacks. This attempt doesn't work either. We go for another attempt. You'll notice a trend here. This doesn't apply for this particular dungeon because I believe we do beat them on this attempt, but for other battles that take multiple attempts, you can check out the full playthrough, which is available on the Stream Vault channel. It should be linked in the description or the comments or something. You should be able to check that out, which is the full run through. It's sped up, obviously, for your benefit, but you can see all the attempts we do. Actually, that one we failed. This one I think is the one that we succeed, because the same sort of idea implies. We're trying to do as much damage as we can with the limited moveset, but more importantly, we are just waiting for luck for the Fire-type moves to not happen. We take a step downwards, because I think I was hoping that Moltres would just stand still or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. But from here, Razor Leaf seem to be doing more damage than Tackles. We switched on the special bands as well. This is when the switch happens. And from here, we're actually able to do sometimes enough damage. There, finally enough. I think we were close most of those times. I wasn't keeping track of the HP, but close enough most of those times. This time we were able to, and Moltres kind of trusts us to go and figure out what the actual issue in the world is. From here, we get off the mountain to the side here, where Faye is like, we've done it, we've saved the day, and then I remind them of ACT, which is not going to be disturbed by the Mount Blaze. From here, we move on to the next section. This is Frosty Forest, that's an Absol that ran away, and this is where difficulties come in hand, because Articuno is the boss of this dungeon, and Articuno can use Powder Snow, a move that attacks both of us at the same time with an Ice-type move, which as a reminder is super effective. So, we need to prepare as much as we can. On top of that, the dungeon itself is starting to become more difficult. We're not getting a lot of experience, and while these foes aren't typically that big of a deal, Azural's not a big enemy, Snowrun can be, as you'll see both here and later on. First attempt going through, we're able to succeed for the most part, and then there's the Powder Snow that does multiple Reviver Seeds. I'm trying to keep all my Reviver Seeds in place, which does not help when they are being lost by the regular folks. Here I show Attract. If you saw the previous challenge, you saw how great Attract can be, and in fact, I go for Return on Faye, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but you saw how Attract can be really useful for the boss battles, because the boss battles are able to be attracted, meaning that they're immobilized by love and not able to do any damage. Getting Attract is fantastic, and I use it here. Return is an interesting move. So Return in the main games is based on friendship and connection with the trainer. In this game, it's based on IQ, so all of those gummies we've been feeding our partner has been helpful. It's a set damage based on your IQ, so the more IQ you have, the better the damage does. At this point in the run, despite all those gummies we've been giving, Return only does 10 damage, and there's not a lot of power points as well. So initially when I did that, I thought I made a critical mistake. I thought I messed it up completely. You'll see later on, though, Return actually single-handedly saved us from basically saved us from this challenge being released at all. Otherwise, this would not be released. It's because of Return, and we'll get to that when we do. From here, though, a combination of Blast Seeds, the Razor Leafs that our partner uses, which again not only is stab, but it's half ineffective instead of quad ineffective, so it does even more damage. And from here, you can just see continuation. The agility is tough. We're just hoping that Powder Snow doesn't happen, because if it does, that becomes a big issue. I try to give my partner the Razor Leaves. Give the Razor Leaves back through the Max Elixirs. They dodge both of them. I don't know why. But, I have to switch on Return at this point, which you'll see right about here. After going for the Attract here, the Return only does 10 damage because the IQ isn't that high. Combination with Razor Leaf, that's all they can really attack with, because we don't have any great damaging moves. And if you remember from the sheet earlier, I think the next one that does damage is as we lose multiple Reviver Seeds to Powder. So the next one we does damage, I think, is Body Slam at 29. Fun fact, we don't reach 29 in this challenge. So it's definitely an interesting one. Able to get through somehow, just by luck. Articuno, unlike Moltres, isn't willing to let us go through until we get vouched for by Absol, which is about to show up right now. There it is. And from here, we continue on the challenge, Absol joining with us, though Absol, of course, cannot contribute towards the dungeon. We kind of push them out to our home base as soon as we get the opportunity to do so. So at this point in the run, I'm thinking that we are in an interesting situation. I've done the research. I myself, at this point, don't think I'm going to get to the Body Slam opportunity. So my next thought is, okay, I'll just find a TM, or maybe use Gulp and Slingshot to return it back and get rid of a Growl or something like that. But from now, we can't do that now. We got to get through this dungeon first. Mouth Freeze, normally not a problem. It was a problem. Fury attacks there. The Swablu seems to be taking us out completely. I don't know what's up with Swablu in this run, but apparently they really don't like Chikorita. Here's multiple Vigoroth. This is certainly not ideal. The Encore doesn't help either, and the fact that we're just trying to get past all of them. Eventually, Fury Swipes, knocks us out, because of course the multi-hit moves are. And here's another first floor situation. Shelgon is also a Pokemon that's just a general threat in general, because of how complicated they can become. There's another knockout. Like I said, this was definitely complicated. We eventually get through, though, and get to the peak. Then I realized Absol's there. So we had to cut that out, redo the run. That one's not complicated, though, because we just saved on the top floor and get to the 5th floor from here, where Ninetales tells us, hey, we are not the human in the story. It's somebody else. Fun fact, that somebody else is, and this is where I put the spoiler tag and pretend like I said something even though I did not. If you want to know who that is, check out the post-game of the story, or maybe check out a playthrough or something like that, because I don't want to spoil that. Anyway, we head back into town after Proof. Alakazam, as I mentioned in the last challenge video, Alakazam, Charizard, and Tyranitar. I assume they did some sort of interview so that Pelipper can get the news article here and prove to all of these folks right about here when Pelipper shows up, proves to them, hey, Ninetales is actually vouching for me here. We're good. I've always wondered this as well. I mentioned the last one as well. Gengar runs up north. There's a dead end up north. I don't know what they're going to do here. Anyway, from here, shout out to Jaros, I believe, who has the same thing as I do. This is my Erica. This is Uproar Forest that we have to do before we can move on with the story, as we need to save Wynut and Wobbuffet from some wild Minkies. So, away we go. Uproar Forest, first time, first dungeon that allows monster houses, first floor, I walk into a monster house. It's just my luck. This is a combination of a lot of effort, a lot of work, only to realize that, hey, you're not actually going to be able to defeat this dungeon. Yep, sure enough, this many enemies without any Reviver Seeds, because I put them all in storage. Turns out it's enough for us to get knocked out, so that's not great. On our next attempt, though, we are a little bit more successful at getting to the Mankey fight, in that we actually can get there. And from looking at our faces, they want to fight. Now, despite the movesets being not ideal at this point, and power points being low, this is, at the point in the game where you fight them, probably the easiest boss fight out there. Because it's 3 Mankeys charging at you, not really doing much damage to us, and we can do sizable damage to them. A few tackles, a few returns, a couple of random attacks here and there, we seem to be successful. Flash forward a couple of days, we build our base. Look at that likeness. It's not only looking like me, it looks like my partner, which is also very fun when you have the exact same Pokemon as the starter in partner situation. Though Mankey tries to add a scar to its face, which is not ideal either. Save the base, and now we proceed forward with the actual story itself. From here, we dive over into Lombre calling us over, being like, hey, guess what? Alakazam's team, not back. So from here, we jump straight into the situation where we're going to work on Magma Cavern ourselves. Why not? As you can probably tell by the difficulty we're having with this one specific Nidoqueen, this is going to be a tough dungeon. I mean, whether it's poison types like Nidoqueen and Nidoking, or fire types like Magcargo and Magmar, Grimer as well, Arbok, a bunch of them. Despite all that, we're somehow able to get through only losing a couple of Reviver Seeds, which is very nice, but this introduces a new problem of Pokemon like Steelix and Onix and scary people like that. Able to get through again without a lot of issues. It's kind of just cross your fingers and hope for luck on that one floor. As the second floor is this little cutscene with Charizard and Tyranitar, and then Alakazam shows up here, getting wiped after fighting against Groudon. Speaking of getting wiped against Groudon, it's our turn, maybe. This first attempt I go through, because there is multiple attempts on this, I go through and quickly learn a couple of things. Number one, as you can show right here, Razor Leaf does 0 damage. Number two, in fact, throwing anything does 0 damage. The growl here is fun, which is not ideal, as I throw a Silver Spike thinking that does better. Basically, we can't do any damage. And I quickly reset. This is the second attempt. This is me a little bit smarter, a little bit stronger, a little bit more prepared. Number one, Gravel Rocks are your friend, because they do a set 20 points of damage. Number two, while it's not that big of an issue for us right now, Reflect could definitely be useful. Number three, Return, which at this point does 15 set points of damage, has quickly become the best move on either of us, especially against Groudon, whose defensive numbers are apparently up there with, if any of you are NFL fans, with the 2000 Ravens. It's a big deal. Despite all this, a combination of efforts of Groudon being a Pokemon that does use physical attacks, Gravel Rocks, and Reflects, we're able to pretty much do well. Attract as well, obviously being helpful to, prevent them from doing anything. From here, once the returns run out, then is when we switch over to the less successful methods of trying to Razor Leaf our way to success. Continue with the Attract, continue with the Razor Leaf, more Gravel Rocks, and just trying to do as much as we can. The slow there does not help, but the Attract, stall out, continuously. This is the problem. One issue I have with Razor Leaf as a move is just that it's not very accurate compared to what other grass type moves are. Get very close to a situation here. Again, Attract is our savior because it can stall them for at least one turn, and we're ultimately successful. We beat Groudon. The three members of Team ACT disappear from the previous floor and or wherever Adam showed up at, only for another Earthquake to happen. And this is the preparation for the tough dungeon. This is dungeon Sky Tower. Sky Tower has a bunch of Pokemon that we won't like at all. It's not ideal. And in fact, Sky Tower can provide a numerous amount of challenges, but it is the end game, so bring all the Reviver Seeds, bring everything we can as we prepare for this big dungeon. So some of the Pokemon in there, as we prepare for the dungeon here, get ready, here's the cutscene, all that sort of stuff. Let's go down the list of Pokemon that I'm scared of. Shuppet, because it can curse you or spite you to prevent, make you lose all your power points. Let's see what else. Coughing, because it's poison type. Ledian, because it's bug type. Altaria, because it's flying type. Scizor, because it's bug type. Let's see. Venomoth, because it's bug type and flying type. Aerodactyl, because it's Aerodactyl. Tropius, because why not? Flygon, because why not? Like, there is a lot of Pokemon here. But ultimately, and that's just the main floor. The summit's got even more complicated foes going. For now, though, Sky Tower is our big threat. We get the Teleport Gem by these couple of folks. And from here, we zoom over to Sky Tower in preparation to save the day. It is two Chikoritas who have overcome the odds. Two Chikoritas, Pokemon that are considered the worst starter by some people out there, blasphemous as it is, though I will not go into a ranking of my own starter list because I'm worried Chikorita might be near the lower end of it. Nevertheless, it is time for us to continue forward. I like Chikorita. I like all Pokemon that haven't personally insulted me. Chikorita has not. First floor, easy. Second floor, we struggle with Lunatone. Yeah, this is a sign of things to come. Continuing with the gummies here, as you can tell, just continually trying to improve the IQ, because if we can get more damage, it's great. Let's jump into the third floor here. You might be wondering why I'm showing floor by floor. It's because this is where things get complicated. There's the spite there, which doesn't impact us right now. There's the curse, which can impact us going forward. And here, right about now, is another Attract. This is going to be another very important detail to our plan to beat Rayquaza. For now, though, Attract is there, and it kind of just sits there as we continue here. There go all my Razor Leafs, which is not good because I don't believe I have enough or any Max Elixirs because I did not plan properly. I would recommend Max Elixirs. From here, start chucking rocks. This is the one area where I wish I didn't, if I could go back and fix one thing on this challenge, it would be using up the gravel rocks. As I mentioned, set damage helps incredibly in the later battles, but I ran out of gravel rocks at a certain point, which does not help. 18th floor, now we're able to zoom up through this. We haven't used most, if any, of our Reviver Seeds. So far, things have been pretty good, and again, we're trying to save all of those for the big boss fight at the end. From here, though, Dusclops as well. Pokemon that have pressure are just not helpful, especially with the limited amount of power points that we have. Ultimately successful here. Get the clear gummy there. Look at that. What do you think of when you see that specific floor? Right? Multiple items. It's Poke, it's Orbs, it's TM. What do you think of? What do you think of? I think this is danger. I'm preparing for this. I sit here for like a minute or two, just like waiting for it. Bam! There's the monster house that we all expected. Luckily, I have the Warp Orb. Also, luckily, nobody shows up in this because they can warp into the same room as you are at times, depending on how big that room is. I kind of hope that Chikorita can just stall in the front and get all the items that I can, move over from there. Unfortunately, not much of it was particularly useful. We get to the summit now. As we explain, as we show off the summit and the early parts of this, let's talk about the issues that the summit can provide. Yeah, that's it. I don't need to talk about it because we just zoomed through. It's that easy. You can tell by the video length that this is obviously where the challenge is going to end, right? Right? Let's fight Rayquaza. So, Rayquaza requires a lot of preparation, all of which means every decision I make has to be made perfectly. I gave Synthesis to my partner. Turns out I don't need it. It wasn't particularly useful. And from here, as I step forward, it is a combination of these things. I go for Attract. My partner goes for Reflect, setting that up in case they do a physical attack. Fun fact, Rayquaza doesn't really like using its physical attacks too much. It prefers to go for, powerful moves, which aren't ideal. From there, partner uses Return, which now does 20 damage. That's a set damage. I don't have any Gravel Rocks anymore, and my throwing items do not do enough damage. They don't do anything, as you can see there. So the new strategy is keep my partner alive to Return as long as possible, until they run out of power points, at which point they have to faint. Somewhat complicated, but you'll see how that works here. So Razor Leaf is switched on. I am continuing with my own strategy, making sure I keep track of when the Attract needs to be put back on. Razor Leaf, the Infatuation, perfect. I go for Attract, Razor Leaf, and we're just continuing this. If at any point in time it attracts, we're hoping our partner gets knocked out, which is why I'm not trying to heal them. I'm not trying to keep them upright. If they knock out, then they recover their power points. Twister does a lot of damage, and that's special, remember. So, Attract here, not able to do too much damage at this point. We're just vibing off of, single points of damage. Dragon Hits is not great. The Crunch does some sizable damage. Quadruple Speed, the slowing, they're doing everything but knocking out my partner. I don't need to be knocked out. I don't have the good moves, which is unfortunate in this particular instance here. It does reset our attracts, so that's some slight advantage. But from here, we're just trying to make, try to force the eyes on our partner. Attract here. One single point of damage, Razor Leaf. Continued attraction. I'm just trying to figure out everything. I'm clicking all sorts of buttons at this point. The Twister then misses, which is not good. We need our partner to knock out as long as we have the Reviver Seeds that we need to survive. But unfortunately, after all this time, we faint. We're out of Reviver Seeds, we're done. This proceeds to begin a long stretch of us struggling to get to the summit again. We got to Rayquaza on our first attempt, we do not do it on our second attempt. In fact, whether it's Metagross, whether it's Aerodactyl, here's a perfect example of everybody that can be a threat. Aerodactyl, and Metagross, and Flygon, and Claydol. And again, we're trying to save the Reviver Seeds that we can. Here's a Tropius that's able to beat us up, losing a Reviver Seed there. Here's another Aerodactyl, which is again, able to, we get multiple misses on our Razor Leaf, which is not fun. Here's just so many foes. We picked up a scope lens at a certain point in the dungeon. You can see on the map there, just so many enemies. Here's another Aerodactyl that decides to just, beat us up for no reason. Here's a Metagross now. Able to successfully do that, we actually teach our partner Secret Power, which is another move that helps us, though I didn't expect it to. Unfortunately, using the Reviver Seed there, we use a Reviver Seed here. Here's a Metagross that beats us up again. It's just a full minute, an entire minute of us struggling in this tower, in the summit in particular, until eventually we get one run through that is incredibly helpful here. This is me just running around in circles until we find it. We found the area, now it's preparation time. Remember, our strategy, keep our partner alive until they go through all their returns, at which point after that, we just point at them and say, please faint them so that they can recover, revive, and regain the returns so we can start beating you up again. Once the returns run out, though, we do have a secret weapon in Secret Power. Now, Secret Power is a move that does damage like any other. I think it's supposed to be needle arm animation, but it does have a beneficial effect depending on where you're doing the move in. This specific dungeon's beneficial effect is that it can cause paralysis. So once we run out of returns, we can use Secret Power to add to the conditions that prevent Rayquaza from doing the move, and hopefully stall things out as long as possible. Strategy begins. We're going with Return here. I made sure Return was never used in the dungeon itself since those are so beneficial to the boss battle. I'm here just as the Attract guy, while my partner, as you can see here, we switch over once we run out of Attracts to Secret Power, and after the first couple of attempts, the third one here gets the Paralysis, which is just a free Attract. My partner is now out of moves that can do damage, so now we're just pointing our fingers at them, being like, please knock them out while we prepare for this. Go for Tackle here. Just trying to get things done, and it's good. Rayquaza is targeting my partner. I could have gone for Synthesis, but I didn't want them to heal. Now that they've got the healing, from the Reviver Seed, they switch back on Return and continue this again. The set 20 points of damage that we're able to do off of this. I offer whatever chip damage I can. Dragonades is not ideal because it can double up all the moves, which can make things much more complicated, and it makes them recover from Infatuation faster, which is not ideal. Attract again. I'm out of Attracts now. What do? This is where that TM we picked up. I delete Attract for Attract, and thus recovering my own Attracts. This keeps the Reviver Seeds that I have in my pocket dedicated for my partner to faint and come back to life. From here, it's just a continuation. Make sure we keep track of the Attract counter. Make sure my partner is the one that faints if need be. Return here, more Infatuation. Ancient Power knocks them out, but that brings the returns right back up to full again, meaning we can continue forward with the efforts that we have. Attract again, Return. Infatuation, Return. Just continuing this, we're doing whatever chip damage we can. The Ancient Power doesn't knock us out. I set that because it's more ideal. Attract, make sure that I'm healed up at maximum so they can't knock me out in one shot, or at least less likely to do so. Return. At this point, I'm running out of items. I'm throwing things at this point because I'm out of power points on moves that can do damage. Attract. The Return. The Iron Thorn. The Return. Knocks him out. Game, set, and match. That's right, 2 Chikoritas with subpar movesets just beat a Rayquaza in Mystery Dungeon. That's how you do it. There's also a meteor in the sky. We also, destroy that in the process, which is beneficial. And from here, the story is concluded. You guys have seen the ending. You know how it works. While it sits back to play, let's talk about the challenge. Chikorita, fun Pokemon to play as. I think Bayleaf Meganium would be definitely helpful to do in this challenge, but obviously, since you can't evolve in the main story of the game, it becomes slightly more complicated. Chikorita as well, its moveset and stats and all that, not great prior to the physical special split, as many Pokemon struggled beforehand. After the fact, though, I think this would be an easier challenge to do if that physical special split existed, because then various other moves could be more impactful, more damage dealing, and new movesets, upgraded movesets. The movesets today are much better than the movesets of the past. From there, though, Chikorita challenge, would I recommend it if you guys are out here doing this challenge? Yeah, I don't see why not. Double Chikorita challenge is fun. The double any Pokemon challenge is fun. In fact, if you have another starter combination, whether a real one or a not real one, go ahead and let me know in the comments below. In fact, we're taking all sorts of suggestions here, all sorts of that. I've written them down. I think we've got 20 or 30 ideas total, combining yours and mine, which is very, very cool, very helpful. So that is the end of this challenge. As a reminder, live streaming from 4 to 6 on twitch.tv/the Region, and 6:30 to 8:30 on this YouTube channel right here, starting next Monday, which is the 17th of July. Doing so and going through different challenges. And again, not only is there a fun component in that itself, but your donations and all that can actually make things more complicated and more difficult. So, thank you so much, everyone, for listening, watching, and supporting the Ahdurin region in any way, shape, or form that you do. I hope to see you in those live streams. And until next time, take care.